South Africa versus England live on TalkSport 2 with Sky Sports. Feel it all and watch every England Test, ODI and T20 live and exclusive on the dedicated Sky Sports Cricket channel.
A very good morning to you. It is Sunday morning. It is TalkSport 2. We were hoping to bring you one-day international cricket from Paarl this morning. Originally, it was in the calendar as the second game of this series. Then it became the first game of the series when Friday's match was called off. I can tell you now that we've just had the confirmation come through. This first one-day international has now been cancelled. And the significance of that is, by being officially cancelled, it means it is off and it won't be rearranged. We have a statement through from Cricket South Africa, which I will now bring to you. It says, Cricket South Africa and the England and Wales Cricket Board have agreed to cancel today's one-day international match, which was due to be played in Paarl. The decision was taken after 2 hotel staff members tested positive for COVID-19. As a precaution, the England players and management underwent an additional round of tests on Saturday evening. Following the test results, 2 members of the England touring party have returned unconfirmed positive tests for COVID-19. The players and management are now self-isolating in their rooms until further advice from the medical teams. The medical advice from both Cricket South Africa and the ECB is that the match cannot take place. A decision on the remaining matches in the series will be taken once the results of the tests are ratified independently by medical experts. There is a quote from Ashley Giles, the Managing Director of England Men's Cricket, which says, "We regret that we are unable to play in today's one-day international, but the welfare of the players and support staff is our primary concern, and whilst we await the results of further tests, the medical advice from both teams was that this game should not take place. We remain in constant dialogue with Cricket South Africa and will continue to work closely with them to determine how best to move forward," while the Cricket South Africa director of Graham Smith has been quoted as saying, "Cricket South Africa is doing everything in our power to ensure that our top priority, which is the health, safety and welfare of players, support staff and all involved in this series, is safeguarded. With that in mind, we've made the joint decision to cancel today's match. We're deeply regretful of the situation we find ourselves in after the amount of time and energy that has been put in place to host a successful tour. We're in continuous talks with the ECB as we navigate the situation under the guidance of our combined medical teams." That statement ends... Kate Cross and Steve Harmison still with me in the commentary position here on TalkSport 2. Well, first of all, Harmy, the confirmation that 2 members of the England party have returned positive tests, although those are officially unconfirmed positives at this stage. So your reaction to that first and foremost?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Mac, I think we knew something was going on without being told. I think we talked about manners and, sitting here where, between 4 of us, including Mark Butcher, we're saying, well, if this isn't as bad as why isn't the game being played? Well, the reason is there was something not told, and that was 2 England players, or 2 players in the England camp has unconfirmed tested positive. So that's why the game has not gone ahead. I'm not surprised. I'm very surprised that they're still trying to persist with the games going ahead, because I still think the health and safety and well-being of everybody is the most important thing. And Cricket South Africa have got to try and somehow get some credibility back to have the rest of their cricket in summer. So I would have thought they'd want the time to really rebuild and patch things up and have an investigation on how this has got into it. Because like I said a couple of days ago, if it's one person who has caused this, then there's serious ramifications for Cricket South Africa. If it's an accident and it can't be helped and COVID's getting in everywhere in the world, then it's something that they need to learn and put the right things in place, the protocols in place to make sure that everything's all right for the summer. I'm surprised that England aren't because they're on a chartered flight. Literally, they could leave any time they want. I'm very, very surprised that they're still trying to persist and carry on. I'm all for trying to do the right thing for the game. I'm all for trying to do the right thing to help South African cricket, like we had with India and Pakistan, Ireland, Pakistan and the West Indies in our summer. But at the end of the day, the safety of the players is the most paramount thing, and to try and keep them in a place where the no COVID's in. And we talked about it many times with Manners. Manners saying it's like Fort Knox. You can't get in and can't get out if you're a person. Well, it's actually it's in the camp. And if it's in the camp, it's just going to spread. And if it's spreading, like we have seen around the world, then for me, they need to disperse that as quickly as they possibly can and get England players. For me, if I'm a family member of an England player, I'd be saying, why are we not coming home? This is more. This is serious. This is safety has to come first.
Yeah, well, we read the statement earlier on from the general manager of the Vineyard Hotel where the teams are staying, and he said that they had some rooms specially prepared so that people could isolate should this situation happen. So we're led to believe that the two people within the England squad are now isolating. Presumably, Kate, the rest of the squad are almost voluntarily isolating at the moment, because I imagine they've all been told to stay in their rooms because we don't want this spreading any further. So even the ones who haven't tested positive, I guess, are sort of isolating it in a sort of minor sense as well.
Yeah, you would imagine so. I bet they've all got the PlayStations on already, playing against each other. I know they play a lot of COD out there, but yeah, it's just going to be a waiting game for them now, unfortunately. And that I think that is the difficulty with the shorter time frame of the tests that they've had. So those 15-minute tests that we've been having as an England women's squad before we go into a training environment for the last 7 weeks, they're not 100% accurate. So I think that's where the unconfirmed positives are coming from. It's almost like doing a pregnancy test. It literally looks like one. So yeah, they're just going to have to wait and hopefully get the better, more accurate test to come through and see if they were positive or not.
Part of me is asking a question, or at least thinking, if there are these tests and they can be a bit hit and miss, why are they doing them? If you end up going to just go back and do the full-blown, full Monty test, aren't you better off just starting with that one anyway? Or am I missing something here?
Yeah, good question. It is difficult. This was something that I actually didn't understand, being in an environmental safe bubble all summer. I couldn't understand why we kept getting tested every 10 days or so, and it was because there is the element that it can still get in. We still had staff members of the hotel or the where we were dining, people were coming in and out, so that it wasn't 100% secure area. And I think that's what people need to realise, is that you can't create 100% safe COVID-free area at the minute.
Kit, did you flag that up with the management, your management, the ECB management, the management of the England women's team? Did the senior players say, hold on, and if this is not 100% sure, why are we testing like we are, like what England have just done there?
So this was before the 15-minute test, so we were doing the ones where the test generally came back 24 to 48 hours later. So I'm the kind of person that needs to understand things. So I did ask the staff members. I said, "Why are we doing this?" And again, it was just caution. Everything was caution. They always went safety first. And we had a few incidents where a few people had minor symptoms and they had to self-isolate for a couple of days before their test came back. So everything, I genuinely felt really safe this summer, and everything that the ECB did, I knew that we came first as players and as people rather than as cricketers.
And I understand that if there's no positive tests inside the bubble. But like me and Butch were saying before, if there is a positive test inside the bubble, surely the bubble's burst and it's in there. So the worst place to be is actually in there, because it's just getting shifted from place to place to place. So from that incident, on that instance, why is the bubble as secure as what it is now? Why are they not doing something to... I know they'll probably deep clean everything, but I can't get my head around why they are still trying to carry on playing, or still being in a hotel, still being in this secure bubble, when all of a sudden now, in the last 48 hours, 4 or 5 people has tested positive, whether it's an England player, a South African player, or hotel staff. Because when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I don't think you can... It's not... I wouldn't say it's 100% foolproof, but you go training, hitting balls, catching balls, throwing balls at stumps, picking stumps up. But all this stuff, I'm sure, has been thought about, and I'm sure they have the right protocols in place. But at the end of the day, you can't just hit a ball and then chuck it away. When you look at it, I played with there's the guys like Paul Collingwood, Marcus Trescothick, who are in that camp, and I know how attention to detail they were when it come to the field. And Tres would catch 100 catches before he'd go. Colley'd stand at backward point and catch or stop or dive to try and stop 50 to 100 balls. That's why these were the best at what they do. We're talking about elite sportsmen who are in there, who are preparing for a game on TV. They will prepare properly. Now, you can't tell me that you can, with the cricket ball alone, you can protect that. So the minute it's in the camp and it's in there, things like that, and Manners talked about touching plates. These are the things that's going to spread it. So once it's in, I would imagine it'd be very, very difficult to get it out.
Right, just to recap then where we are. We've just had this statement from Cricket South Africa and the ECB that today's match in Paarl is now cancelled. Significant cancelled rather than postponed. Cancelled means it is not being rearranged. And what they've said is that they've confirmed what we were hearing on the grapevine earlier, that 2 members of the England touring party have returned positive tests, but though they are unconfirmed at this stage. The statement said that the players and management are now self-isolating in their rooms until further advice is arriving for them, and both parties are still saying they will remain in constant dialogue with each other about the remaining games. Let's get back out to Paarl, where Neil Manthorpe is joining us once again. Manners, this is a holding statement which kind of confirmed what we knew, but once again there is no definitive word in terms of timelines going forward.
That's right, Macca. I debated long and hard about whether I should get into the detail of trying to explain subsequent tests. I mean, a lot of listeners will be thinking, well, what do you mean unconfirmed? You're either positive or you're not. And it's not that simple. There is a subsequent test. If you have a positive test that you doubt, you can pay a lot of money for a subsequent test, which goes into far greater detailed analysis of the positive test. And there's obviously a feeling that the 2 England players who returned positive tests, there's obviously, I know that there is a feeling that they haven't been in contact with any hotel staff or any of the South Africans. They haven't, South African squad players or management, and so there's a belief that they kind of must be false positives, and that's why they've asked for the detailed breakdown analysis. A doctor friend of mine explained to me that you can still test positive if you've had the virus. The cells can stay in your nasal passages for up to 6 to 9 months. You can produce a false positive test. I'm not aware that any of the England players have actually had the virus. So suffice to say that if the more detailed test does confirm that they are positive, then it will be up to the English or the British government whether they would be allowed home and to do their isolation in the UK, or whether they would have to do it in Cape Town. But that obviously would be the end of the tour. As you said, both Cricket South Africa and the ECB are attempting to sound positive about playing these 2 day-nighters at Newlands tomorrow night and Wednesday night. But the feeling is that that the goodwill has run out. There's just a feeling that it's going to be incredibly hard. I mean, if they've rearranged, abandoned 2 games now, the idea that anybody, and I'm thinking about what Harmy's been saying here, that will the players on either side really be in the right frame of mind to play 2 day-nighters within the space of 48 hours? It's very hard. There's much despondency. I mean, Graham Smith has made his first statement. He's the director of cricket. He and Ashley Giles, I'm sure you've read them out, but I mean, I'm just reading Graham Smith's comments here. We're deeply regretful of this situation, given the amount of time and energy, and may I just add money, that has been put in place to host a successful tour. We will continue to give the England team all the support that they need. And he says we're in continuous talks with the ECB as we navigate the situation under the guidance of our combined medical teams. So there is and has always been a great deal of determination from both teams, and a willingness, I have to say, from England's players that has really moved Cricket South Africa, has really moved their administrators. The willingness of the England players to cooperate and do everything that they possibly can, and not to panic, and to be guided by medical advice. I know that England feel that they owe certainly a debt of favour to the West Indies, Pakistan, Australia and Ireland, who came to England in the summer, and I know, I mean, Owen Morgan has spoken very, very movingly in many ways about the way the world must come together to try and keep the game in good health, and keep it flourishing around the world. But I just get the feeling that we've crossed the last bridge, and it's a bridge too far.
Just one final one, Manners, and we kind of touched on this earlier on, just after we'd spoken with you, that obviously one of the big pressure points in international sport is TV, and of course we've now had 2 games called off at very short notice, when all of a sudden TV companies thought they were going to be getting 7 or 8 hours of international cricket, and they didn't get them. Now we're supposedly playing Monday and Wednesday as it stands. Do you think we will get to a situation where tomorrow morning we will still think that there's a game being played? If we have reached that tipping point, which it certainly sounded like from what you were saying there, you think we have reached a tipping point, do you think we'll get a further announcement today from the boards saying, no, that is it, done and dusted, we can't go through this situation again? Or do you think they would be prepared to leave it till tomorrow on the off chance?
Macca, as I understand it, if the two positive tests in the England camp are confirmed by the secondary test, then obviously that's it. There's absolutely no way that we'll be able to go ahead then. I think if the tests come back as negative, then I honestly think everybody will sleep on it, and just see whether anything transpires tomorrow morning before the day-nighter at Newlands. I don't think they're going to commit 100% now. They feel like they've been very badly burnt, having committed 100% to the last 2 games, and we've had no cricket. Yeah, look, I must say, I mean, I'm in a commentary box right next door to the television production company and the TV commentators, all of whom are long gone, by the way. It's just the poor men who are doing the D-rig. It's the cable twirlers and the cameramen who are still here. Everybody's gone. I'm almost man alone. But I have spoken to them, and it's a very, very unfortunate situation. I mean, people have been reading a lot about the hostility between the broadcasters in Australia, and the Cricket Australia, and there's a lot of hostility there around the losses incurred by the COVID situation. That's not the case, in my experience here. Just speaking to the producers and the directors, and they're saying, look, it's incredibly sad, but it's not anything to do with them. I mean, it's to do with the Star TV in India and the subcontinent, who've just paid South Africa $104 million over the next 6 years for television rights. It's big executives. It's not people here on the ground. I was asking cameramen, do you reckon you'll get paid? And they said, well, who knows? I mean, we just have to do what we have to do. And yeah, I mean, it's a simple equation. I mean, a broadcaster pays X amount for X number of games, and if they don't happen, then they don't pay the money over. That's why there's been so much. That's why the ECB were so desperate to go ahead with their full international schedule. And as Harmy and Butch and everyone knew, everybody's been saying, what this situation does is bring into even sharper focus what a brilliant job the ECB did. I know everybody said they did at the time, but now we're really beginning to appreciate just what a financial rescue act it turned out to be. Never mind the health and safety of the players, but it's. I mean, there's a real feeling of desolation here, there's the numbers that I keep being given, are higher than the ones that most people are saying. Graham Smith's told me it's 70 million rand that's on the table. We've fortunately got the T20 series played. They are worth less as individual matches to Cricket South Africa than the one-day internationals. So if they can get these last two games played, then they will mitigate their financial losses, certainly. But again, as Harmy says, everybody says, Dane, you've all said, I agree. You can measure the results of an affected tour financially, but it's the health and safety of the players and the whole broadcast crew, I guess, and the match officials that is front and foremost in our minds.
Manas, for the time being, thank you so much. I'm sure if there is any news, we'll be back with Neil at some stage or other. And just to pick up what he was talking about there, that the implications from the Indian TV, Star Sports, have just signed a deal to show, well, basically for when India go to South Africa, but they've done a deal so that every series in South Africa is shown on Indian TV for the next however many years. And to give you an idea of the size of that, they're not just taking a feed. For the first time, they're actually doing commentary in Hindi, albeit from India. But this South Africa-England series was the first series to be done not featuring an Indian team in Hindi in India. So they've spent an awful lot of money on these rights. And look, no way in the world should it come down to pounds, shillings and pence as to whether these games get played or not. But unfortunately, Harmy, we are in a situation, we've seen it with football, with rugby, with the domestic cricket in England this year. Unfortunately, when you don't have crowds coming in, there is a financial black hole, and unfortunately, the money does come into that equation.
Yeah, I think you have to talk about and have to have it in part of the mind. We're not saying players aren't the be all and end all. It is. The most important thing is the players. That's why there's so much money. Talking to Jarlo the other week, he was more or less indicating £1 million was spent to secure, I think, was it 18 international matches? £1 million just, so that's an extra £1 million that they were going to, talking about hundreds of millions that England potentially could lose. And when you ramp the costs of that far outweigh anything else when it comes to the safety of players is the most important thing. So you get the players on the field, so you can still see the spectacle. Because not only did we get 18 fantastic matches, we got to see sport whenever the whole country was more or less in lockdown. The actual cricket itself was very, very good, very, very challenging, and it was good to watch. Now, when you talk about getting these players on a pitch and the money that's in the game, they've got to get the money from somewhere, and broadcasting rights are probably the biggest injection of cash into paying people's wages. Why you've got superstars like Ben Stokes, Josh Butler that we've got. So we have to have one eye on the financial side of the game, because all of a sudden, if we start sort of, and I've been blasé about it, sitting here now and saying, right, if I was a senior player, I'm going home because of safety. It has to be explained to the players that we have to give it the best chance possible to play without putting you in too much jeopardy, because at the end of the day, in 3, 5, 6 years down the line, the financial rewards for what's coming next might not be there if tours keep getting cancelled.
On the cricket, Kate, I mean, I just asked Neil, do you think they'd be prepared to carry this one on and maybe wait until tomorrow and call it? Take me into a player's mindset here. You've had 2 false starts now. England got to the ground on Friday and were told to get straight back on the coach. They never even left the hotel today. As it stands, we've got 2 games left, and one of them is due to be starting lunchtime tomorrow. I imagine you're not exactly, as a player, in the best mindset to go out and perform at your very best level.
Probably not. However, we are fair weather players, aren't we? And we're used to the delay, we're used to the rain, not playing, and matches being abandoned or changed, and having to adapt to that pretty much on the spot. So there's an element of uncertainty, which I think Harmy just touched on there. I think for me as a player, if I knew that there was a good chance we're playing cricket tomorrow on Wednesday, then you get your head around that and you're there to do a job at the end of the day. And I could guarantee that the ECB would not play those fixtures if it wasn't safe to do so. I spoke about that from our summer as well. From my experiences, the safety did come first. So you're not going to go out there unless it was safe to do so. But they'll obviously have more information than we will. The players will know a lot more than us at this stage. So they'll be able to get their head around whatever the situation might look like. And if they get to play, then I think for a lot of them that would be better than being sat in a room looking at four walls or playing on the PlayStation. So I personally would want to be involved in cricket if there was the opportunity to do that. And I think you'd just turn up on the day and do your normal routines and get your head around it like you would on any other game day.
That's the point that you've got to make, is the level of professionalism now in the game is through the roof. These guys, yes, they'll have been holed up in a room for the last 24, 48 hours, but the minute 9 o'clock comes tomorrow morning, they get on that bus and they get on the field. What's just happened has happened. They'll not think twice. I don't think that will enter the likes of, I was going to mention Ben Stokes, because he's somebody who's been playing all around the world. He's not out there, but somebody like Josh Butler, somebody like Owen Morgan, because they've played so much cricket and they know, like Kate was saying, fair weather, rain breaks, all that stuff that goes with it. The minute the coin goes up and the toss is made and we are batting or bowling, you go into autopilot, and their autopilot is professionalism. Their autopilot is, we've done the preparation. It might have been a little bit hit or miss preparation, but when it comes down to the game time, I don't think the cricket, if we play 2 games, I don't think the cricket will be devalued at all, not one bit, because of the level of performance that these guys can do. So as much as it is up in the air and you don't know what's going to happen, the minute the coin goes up and we are batting or bowling, I don't think anything that's happened in the last 48 hours will come into the mind of any of them players going out there and playing.
But I think that will only happen if it's explained to the players that everything is okay.
Yeah.
I think as soon as you've got uncertainty in a camp, that's when you have whispers, you have little chats in the dressing room, and that's when things can get a bit messy. But I think if everything is explained to the players, that everything was returned negative, everyone's safe, then, as you said, Tommy, I think you'd have 2 good games of cricket.
And that's the important thing to remember. What we're being told publicly is probably about 1% of the conversation that's actually going on behind closed doors. So, we're going to try again tomorrow. Keep your fingers crossed, everybody. There's no guarantees the way this is going. We're going to be with you at 11:30. We might be half an hour away from cricket. We might be half an hour away from an awful lot of waffle once again. What we will have, though, is some news at that point. Hopefully, we will have cricket for you. It is the intention, as it stands, that the 2 one-day internationals in Cape Town at Newlands will be played. But the first one-day international of this series has, for the second time, been cancelled in this. There won't be any action at Boland Park today. The intention is, as I say, to get underway tomorrow lunchtime. TalkSport 2 will have every ball that is bowled. We'll be with you from 11:30.
South Africa versus England live on TalkSport 2 with Sky Sports. Feel it all and watch every England Test, ODI and T20 live and exclusive on the dedicated Sky Sports Cricket channel.